And welcome back once again to the Shadow Gallery. I am your host, as always, James Donnelly. And this is part 2 of my 7-part series of what I consider to be the greatest comic book films not based on comic books. And this, as we saw in the first of these, we saw that we were talking about what I consider to be the honorable mentions. So basically, it's the top 7, if you will. But it's really, there are 5 that transcend. These 2 are really the closest ones that I could put in that are really that are close to to having the kind of comic book mindset. If you saw the last episode, you'll also know that this film also features Christian Bale. And this is a film, very, very underseen, underrated film, in my opinion, that came out, I think, around about 2002, maybe 2001, not really sure. But it's a film by director Kurt Wimmer called Equilibrium. And let's go to the trailer.
The cleric is the final line of defense. If the resistance compromises it, we are doomed.
Do this. You cannot do this.
There's nothing we can't do. It's real.
Burn it.
Cleric, I can only hope one day to be as uncompromising as you. You're a family man.
Yes, sir, a boy and a girl.
Idiot person, don't move! Don't move! Yeah! Cleric, this is a lawful entry. We have a warrant for your wife's arrest.
Remember me.
Welcome to the underground.
Do you know why you came?
Yes.
They trained you your whole life to fight these kind of odds.
What can I do?
I've heard the most disturbing rumor.
Rumor, sir.
A rumor maintaining that one of the cleric is actually attempting to contact the resistance.
Then you know what I'm gonna do now.
Preston, give me yourself. Entirely without incident.
No, not without incident.
Okay, now that you've seen the trailer is a little bit misleading, to be quite honest. It's not really about, and as I said before, there are a lot of comparisons that can be made between Bruce Wayne and the character that Christian plays in this film, Cleric John Preston. Whereas this is, but the main difference is that his impetus to fight this massive injustice that's being, because basically the plot of the film is that through the use of a drug called Librium, they have basically eliminated emotion, strong emotional response. People who feel are known as sense offenders, and by feeling, that is the collection of music, art, film, anything that can possibly stir the soul, because emotion is a very, it's a very fickle animal. It can make us do things that we never thought that we were capable of doing. And what they're seeking, what this kind of government is seeking to do, is eradicate, all emotion at the cost of people aspiring to be better than themselves. At the cost of love, at the cost of happiness, at the cost of joy, in favor of completely eradicating fear and pride and hate, because obviously love and hate are very much two sides of the same coin. And there's a lot of elements of this film that we've seen in other films like Fahrenheit 450, or stories like Fahrenheit 451, which is very similar. You have the scene, in the trailer in which, they see the Mona Lisa there, and he says, burn it. In Fahrenheit 451, that's essentially what they were doing. They were burning, everything, books, art, that could lead to, kind of a shift in the balance of power. So John Preston has, obviously he's been trained for forever, it seems like, to be this, ultimate fighting machine. And the combat that they use, the technique that they use, called gun fu, which is sorry, god damn it, gun kata, which is basically a, it's used to maximize killing efficiency within, with multiple targets. Basically you allow yourself almost to be surrounded, and then, you do this, cross-gunning. It's just the sequences in which they really show off that skill are amazing. So the gun kata, and also fighting with swords. This is, it's basically, it's elevating these, it's elevating just using these weapons to almost an art form. So John Preston and Bruce Wayne are similar, but very different, in the sense that it is not the death of his wife, as we see in the trailers. We see her being taken away. That is what spurs him to action, because that actually took place when he was, a cleric, and while he was taking the dose of, of this drug. And he, but what eventually does stir him is that he's, in investigating and wiping out the underground, he starts to feel things stir within himself. And it's off of that emotion that feeds his eventual need for, toppling this, very corrupt, and, evil regime, quite honestly. And that's what, so it's not the, the most, what should have been the most traumatic event of his life was not. And the actual trauma comes about later, as he, the more that he looks into kind of the face of who he's fighting, that's when it really kicks open. And then, and Kurt Wimmer, who wrote and directed this, he does it with a sense, a very kind of comic book sense of style. Things are, and the character's arc is very comic book-esque. It's not shot in an extremely stylized fashion, but the combat, as I said before, is incredibly stylized and incredibly, kind of eye-popping to watch. So it's more character-based than it is merely, he's less of an action hero and more of a comic book hero. That's basically what I'm trying to say. He's not there just merely to serve as the the cog that the loose cog in the machine that ends up undoing it all. He is there to he's a fully fleshed out character, largely thanks to Bale's performance, which is amazing. And you have other really, really good supporting performances by Emily Watson and Angus McFadden. And Taye Diggs, he's a little too arrogant for my liking. And Sean Bean also appears in this, for those of you who are fans of Game of Thrones. And he, has a small part in this film, but he rocks it. So that's it for this segment. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you with number 5 on the countdown. So stay tuned. You're going to enjoy it. This is the Shadow Gallery signing off.